This broadcast has been brought to you by friends and partners of Alfano Ministries International. Thank you for partnering with us today. All right, everybody, this is Marc Alfano coming back to you with the 7K Revelation podcast. We have an amazing guest on today. I'm really excited about the way this podcast has been going. We've had some just great traction and really attracted a lot of amazing people. We've heard some great testimonies. But why do we do what we do? Well, when I got in ministry, the Lord showed me just do what you do in business, lift up the arms of other ministers as well as other business people. And so that's what we've been doing. And people ask me all the time, like, well, why do you call it the 7K Revelation? What does that even mean anyhow? Well, that came really out of necessity. I mean, it's like, when you're doing things and there's like a repetitive theme that continues to come up, I'm not, going to ignore it. And one thing I noticed was there's a lot of people out there getting major things done, but really nobody ever doesn't know about it. And so I have to show you here in Romans, Elijah was crying out to God. He says, Lord, have they killed your prophets and torn down your altars? Am I the only one left? And are they trying to kill me too? And he says, do you remember what God said? He says, no, I have 7,000 others that haven't bowed the knee to Baal. And it's so important in today's world that, we as Christians take a stand and we don't bow the knee. And so there's so many people out there who haven't, but they just don't have a platform. Maybe I see these people in normal life and it's like, wow, I didn't realize you're the depth of that person's testimony. So the Lord really showed me that. And then speaking of testimony, in Revelation 12:11, it says this, and they have defeated him by the blood of the Lamb and by their testimony. Or in the King James, I love it because it says they've overcame by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. And what I love about that is that the blood and the testimony are side by side, which, we all believe in the power of the blood, but your testimony is just as powerful as the power of the blood. So that's why we always start these broadcasts out with the testimony. And then the last part, this is something the Lord showed me through, like I said, through the podcast, was Genesis 11:5 and 6. And it's not like one of your go-to scriptures, but it's whenever they were building the Tower of Babel, God looked down and said, look, the people united, they all speak the same language. After this, nothing they set out to do will be impossible for them. And there's been so much division in the church that, it's, I always say there's 1,000 ways to be a Christian, but in reality, it's about the one common denominator, and that's Christ and Him crucified. So that's why we do our podcast, and I'm so excited for my next guest, Dr. Kristal Vance. I'm going to bring her up to the stage. I've never met you in person. I've been on some of your broadcasts. I've been able to listen to you as, I'm a mentee, you're a mentor. And I'm just so excited to get your story, to hear how you came to know the Lord and just really what the Lord's been doing with you in your life. So welcome to the show, Dr. Kristal Vance.
I am so excited to be here. It actually makes me a little teary-eyed because it is so my heart's desire to let my story be something that inspires other people. And so getting to share my testimony is exciting. I know there's someone who's hearing this that you're going to maybe feel a little bit of you inside of me. And so I'm excited for that. It wasn't that long ago where I felt like I was sort of by myself in this great big world. Like I was all alone, like there was no one else like me. I had grown up in the church. I've always been the good girl. I got off track here and there, but like my core being in my relationship with God always was that barometer of, hey, you're getting a little off track, back on track. And so I grew up going to church, vacation Bible schools, church camp, went off to college, came back from college and had a really major awakening and joined a a church in the Colorado Springs area and attended that church and really went to the next level with God and what came Holy Spirit filled. Loved working on patients. I started my patient care then, praying over every patient. And I did that for 18 years in private practice, where every single patient that I put my hands on, I prayed over, and really just wanted to be a vessel and a tool that God used. But I fell away from the community of church. There was a breakdown in our church, and our pastor came forward with humanness, flesh, and it divided and broke the church apart. And I ended up going to my hometown and opening up my practice. And when I did, I never found another church that I felt like I was a part of. And so right there is when I got separated from the herd, if you want to call it, from the masses. And I was out there, wasn't by myself. I knew I was, talking and communicating with God. But as one of our fellow friends, Tara Stewart, said to me, she goes, "You're a prophet gone rogue." And when she said that to me, I was like, oh, I knew that God was getting ready to be like, hey, it's time to come back. And honestly, when I started to meet people that Tara was in community with, I literally was like, I'm not by myself anymore. There you all are. There you are. I've been out here all by myself. And there was this realization that I left the herd. I might have got separated, but I certainly didn't go back out looking for it. I was by myself. And I've had this desire for all of these years to continue, like, God use me. God help me. But there was some areas in my life that I was absolutely, like, I was in certainly sinning. I was in a non-covenant relationship, and it was like breaking my heart to be a part of that. I wanted so much to have healing in that area, but I was afraid to do the work to have it. And it's interesting how when you start to change one area of your life, it's that ripple effect. It kind of ripples into the other areas. So when you start to make positive changes in your health, it starts to change your relationships. It starts to change how you're showing up, spiritually. And so that's really what I've been on of a journey over the past couple years, is God's just bringing all these ripples together. And so right now, my testimony is I love the Lord with all my heart. And I know that He's going to use the messiness of my life to let other people know that they don't have to be perfect, and that you can still be used. He can still use your story to inspire somebody else to take care of themselves.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's just the way He does. He says He left the 99 for the one. So you're the one He left the herd for, to come look for and bring you back in.
Yeah, well,
which is amazing.
I'm rogue no more.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Rogue no more.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, there's always these stories of people who grew up in the church and then they kind of go away from it. But that foundation, what you felt calling you, was really the Holy Spirit just keeping that hook in you, saying, all right, I mean, it's time to come back. But then to put association with it, how important do you think it is to be with a good community of believers?
Oh my goodness. It's, the revelation of it is absolutely support, but it's accountability. Like, who's holding us accountable? I knew I didn't want to hang out with a bunch of believers because I knew they'd look at me, and not with judgment, but we set the bar for each other. And when we're not meeting the standard of what we know, like, I needed that. I needed the accountability, and I'm so thankful for it because it got me back on track.
Hmm. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, and so that brings you back in, to the fold. A lot of times people feel like they don't need to go to church or whatever because of things. I think a lot of times we get in a place where we put the man of God ahead of God himself, and so whenever something happens where you're in a church where the leader has issues, or there's a breakup or whatever, then it takes you off track. I always say that the thief came to steal, kill, and to destroy, and a lot of times he hangs out in the church, waiting for the perfect time to do all those things. But what's amazing is just the pure love of God has kept you, kept you back and into the fold.
Absolutely.
So that's great. So now, as a doctor, tell me how your career started out, and kind of what took you into that field.
Well, I grew up with this belief that I needed to be a doctor or a lawyer to be successful. Now I know, I'm a bit older, and thankfully a little wiser. I know that's not the case, but at the time I was in law school, and I was going to law school, and I was like, I don't like this. This doesn't feel good to me. I can't imagine doing this for the rest of my life. And I just knew in my heart it wasn't where I was supposed to be. And I really wanted to help people. That's always been a thread of who I am, is not necessarily like a sense of false responsibility, help someone, but I love to encourage people. I love to inspire and give hope. Like, I am the ultimate cheerleader. Like, I believe in you as much as you'll believe in me, and let's do it together. That's always been who I was. So when it came to, all right, not a lawyer, okay, next is doctor, I was like, oh, wait, the world of pharmaceuticals has never worked for me. So I really was in a struggle with that. I was like, I don't want to do surgery. I don't want to do blood. Yeah. I want a 9 to 5. I don't want to be in a hospital at 3 a.m. And I myself was under chiropractic care for a sports injury. And so I had gone home over a spring break, and my chiropractor said, have you ever thought about going into chiropractic? I think you'd be incredible at it. And in that moment, this spark was lit, and I was like, And so I went into the field. I started looking at it, and the next thing you know, very quickly, I changed routes. I went and did a quick program to change all of my studies. I spent 9 months going from political science and criminal justice to biology and chemistry. Wow. I have a really healthy student loan bill is what ended up happening. And the stress of that alone really set my life into motion in regards to business, having all of this debt because I changed course midstream. And so that's how I got into the field of chiropractic, and then just that heart to help people and do it in a natural, non-pharmaceutical way.
Yeah, well, that seems to be like the big push. Obviously there's two sides to the coin. I read a book called The Killing of the Planet, which is a really good read, but it talks a lot about the whole motive behind the pharmaceuticals, and it was really created by big oil and different things like that, and it's a money making machine. And I think a lot of doctors make a lot of money by keeping people sick. It's like you go to the hospital and you're like, man, I really don't feel good. Well, let me put you on something. It's like, well, don't you have any analgesics or anything like that you could just give me to rub on my skin to make the pain go away? Oh, no, you need to get on this. So I'm taking a different route. And I think right now is really becoming more of a trend because people are waking up to the fact that, that the system, I would say, is a little bit broken in a way, and that there's a more excellent way, so let's, talk to me a little bit about kind of what you do in that field, and as far as, alternatives to the pharmaceuticals.
Yeah. So I, I it's one of those conversations that sometimes can be a little bit difficult because we have incredible emergency care in the United States, but we have terrible long-term care. And that what you just spoke about, the world of pharmaceutical and big farm, how it has eroded away. Um, my MD friends are given only a certain handbag of tools, and it says RX behind it. It's a prescription pad that says these are the tools. And unfortunately, the other part of it is, as a society, up until a few years ago, we walked in and said, tell me what to do. Hmm. It wasn't tell me what I need to do. It was tell me what to do. And so that actually was part of my frustration as a provider, is I was like, I need you to become an advocate for your own health. I need you to take responsibility for your own health, because my patients would walk in and they'd be like, fix me. And I'm like, well, I can only do so much. Like, what are you doing to fix you? And so passing that responsibility back to ourselves, I think, is really important. Taking on that responsibility. I am responsible. Kristal is responsible for Kristal's health. And what I found out and what I discover, and now what I teach to people, is 90 to 95% of your health is lifestyle created. What you do every single day determines your health. What you drink, what you eat, what you consume, your mental mindset, your spiritual awakening, our environment creates our health. And I think when people realize that they're not broken, we're not broken. Now, it might take us more than a week to get our health back, but inside of, it's a quick switch when we realize that we are the power, and that God gave us everything we need in these bodies to get ourselves healthy. And more importantly, every single pharmaceutical that is created began as a botanical, began as something natural. And then the industry had to find a way to synthetically produce it in mass amounts. And so they find a chemical formula that replaces this beautiful botanical that it started out with. So it's not surprising that someone like myself could then teach others how to take nutrients and supplements, vitamins and minerals, real food, and take their health back. Because that's where it started in the first place.
Yeah, so my career, since probably 2003 was in the culinary world as a chef and restaurant owner. And so, you see the food that we're given, but we also know that food has been very much tampered with. We just got back from Europe. We spent a month in Europe this summer, and nice. You could eat as much as you want, yeah. Anything you want. Pasta's not off limit. You don't gain weight. You feel great. Because of the fact that they have laws where a lot of foods that are sold in the United States could not be sold in Mexico, could not be sold in Europe. Obviously we have a big battle to fight, because you think, well, I'm doing my part. I'm eating what I consider to be healthy. But whenever you're eating GMO foods and all these heavily processed things, it's really damaging, our culture to a major degree. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh my goodness. Like there's nothing that was actually my first real revelation that so my story, I was 160 pounds heavier than I am today.
Wow.
I had to fight for my own health. I had to become a warrior for my own health. And in doing that, that's that light that I was talking about earlier. I want people to know they're not broken. I thought for years that no one could figure me out. And when I got back to chasing health, instead of chasing the number on a scale, I started to find my health. And I think we have multiple generations that what the number on the scale is determines whether they're healthy. Like if I tell someone, and this might trigger someone, so I want you to know I love you. But if I look at someone and say, you're fat, I just crushed them. But if I look at someone and say, you're unhealthy, it doesn't have the same connotation to it. And that's wrong. It should be the reverse. You should be as insulted when I say you're unhealthy as if I told you you're fat. And it simply isn't the case. We have created this, the scale is an idol all in itself. I certainly placed it there. I chased it for years. And when I finally put it down and just decided that, I'm going to treat myself like a plant. I'm going to make sure I get sunshine. I'm going to make sure I get nutrients. I'm going to give myself good food and I'm going to drink lots of water. All of a sudden I started to get this healthier body. And guess what? The side effect was that I started to lose weight. And it's so important. That moment I was in Europe and I had been doing this and I went on vacation. And here I am 3 weeks eating all the things because I still had this mentality of I'm going to do whatever I want. I'm going to go off plan per se. I'm going to enjoy myself. When's the next time I'm going to be in London? And I ate and I indulged. And I got home and I got on the scale and I was like, what? I lost weight? How is that possible? And all of a sudden it really drove home the point that the food over there is not the food here. And so it really does. It's not necessarily all our fault in the foods that we're choosing, but how do we do the dance? Because we live here, we don't live there. So it's like, how do we come together and how do we work with what we have? And so that's, I wanted to build a community. We did that. We built the Circle of Health community, and it's for support and it's for accountability for those who want to have a healthier way to live. Now, I know that a lot of people need the first step. And so for me, the first step was utilizing some nutritional drops. And you talked about HCG earlier in your own journey. And I used HCG for my own journey for a while. And I know our bodies are incredible. But how do you start? Where do we get people started? And I believe utilizing some basic nutritional steps is the first part. So going back to some clean, healthy eating, adding some great nutritional supports and supporting the endocrine system. And so that's what we do over in the Circle of Health. And that's what I've been doing for the past few years.
Okay, and then so one thing is, I think a lot of times people have this bad relationship with food where they have to be on a diet. My son's 11 and he's heavy, and he's like, Dad, he goes, I don't want to eat like this because we're trying to eat right and teach him how to eat right. He's like, I don't want to eat like this for the rest of my life, And I said, well, or I don't want to be on a diet the rest of my life. And I said, no, it needs to be a lifestyle over a diet. You know, like you just have to learn to love the things that are good for you,
Yeah.
and treat yourself occasionally to the things that you enjoy. What do you think about I just want to get your perspective on this, because there's a lot of these diets that come that are very extreme. You know, like I know I tried like a carnivore diet for a while. You know, I did some studies. I'm like, oh man, I could do this, and I could only make it. I personally could only do it for about 3 weeks, and I just couldn't do it anymore. Physically, I just couldn't take it. But some
Right.
people have a lot of success. You know, what are your thoughts on those types of things? Because I think people, they just want a quick fix. You know, it's like, man, if I could eat bacon and eggs and grease every day, and lose weight, I'm going to do it. You know, but you know,
Yeah.
obviously there has to be some sort of balance. You know.
There is. And, as Christians, the difference between striving and thriving, we can assimilate that same thought process to our health. Are we striving, trying to be healthy, or striving to be thin? Are we thriving and we're finding ourselves healthy and we're finding ourselves thin? So, dieting never served me. The all or nothing in anything has, it's never served me. What has served me is going back to the basics.
Hmm.
Um, Meat, lean meat like proteins, vegetables, fruit. Like, there was so many times I felt like I was Eve in the Garden of Eden. Don't eat the apple, right?
Right.
Like, you can't have it. And I was like, please just give me an apple. I
Right.
just want some fruit. Like, I don't believe that God gave us anything that we shouldn't be able to have. And I also, since, through these years, have come to the idea of good, better, best. 80% of the time, do the absolute best that you can. And some people might be like, what? 100% of the time. Well, that's that diet mentality, that all or nothing. So if you're 100%, then when you fall off, you're zero.
Right.
There's no grace in that. And so I look at my life, 80% of the time I'm going to do to the best of my ability. And then I'm going to look at better and good. So I say there's sometimes that I'm going to eat some food just because it tastes good to me. It has good memories associated to it. Um, right? It's just good tasting food. Here's the thing, almost always I eat it and I don't feel good afterwards.
Right.
It's interesting how that goes together. And so I honestly eat less and less of it as time goes on. And I find myself more in the better. There's a better version of all of those good tasting foods.
Hmm.
And that better version, I usually feel better after I eat it. And so that's where I kind of stick and stay. And so for like the young kids that have grown up, we've taught them, and marketing. You walk into a grocery
Hmm.
store, or you go somewhere to eat. Marketing is to everything preservatives, everything that fires and fuels up that big farm world, dyes, colorants, preservatives, chemicals. I try to stick to the perimeter of the grocery store.
Hmm.
Um, it's not rocket science. Listen to this. Why are all of the preservative foods in the center?
Hmm.
There's no electrical boxes. These big box grocery stores don't want to put electric in the middle of that so it's all, everything plugs into the wall. All the electrical is run through the walls. And so if you want food that has to be refrigerated to keep from spoiling, then stick to the perimeter of the grocery store, because it has to be plugged in there to keep it fresh.
That's good.
And then my goal is always to go with a food that doesn't have an ingredient list.
Hmm.
It's like, a whole food. Like an apple does not have a little ingredient. They're like, tell me how to read this label. Yeah. What if you ate something that didn't have one? That's the best food for us.
No, that's good.
So,
So you mentioned earlier about the drops. Talk to me a little bit about that because, like I said before we came on the air, I was 315 pounds. I got down to 185, and now I'm I kind of rebound, because I did HCG. I started out with just diet and exercise. It started with me, like, I owned a restaurant. I got tired of being heavy. My wife and we had a elliptical, and we had a treadmill. And one day I was just sitting. I used to come home from work. I'd work very late nights, and I would get a bowl of Cheez-Its. I'd have this huge bowl of Cheez-Its. Like, who the heck eats Cheez-Its? Or it would be chips and salsa or something like that with cheese, and I always fix them up real nice and sit in my easy chair and, like, just eat.
yeah.
And one day she got up and she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna get on the treadmill." And then I said, "All right, go ahead and go for it." And then after a while, I always got tired of sitting there by myself, so I went and got on the treadmill. And then then we went from barely being able to walk. I remember one time I was on the treadmill, my dad walked in, and he's like, "Hey, if you have a heart attack on that thing, I'm not going to be able to pick you up," kind of deal. And I was like, "All right, I got this," because it's almost like that wake-up call, like, you're not healthy, do something about it. And then next thing you're running 5 miles in an hour, and I was dropping weight, but then I hit this wall where it wasn't just going to be exercise that was going to get me there. And then, I tried Jenny Craig. I did it all. I'm literally like the walking encyclopedia. I've done everything that there is when it comes to weight loss.
Yeah.
And then I was introduced to the HCG. And what I liked about it for me was, like, I can do it, and I could drop 40 pounds in 40 days and feel great, during that process. But the issue is when you come off, you have to come off for 6 weeks. You can't just continue on with this lifestyle of constantly eating 500 calories. And then, there's no fats at all. There's, I'm sure you've done it, so you know what I'm talking about, where,
Yeah. No lotion. Oh,
nothing.
I felt like a scaly. I was like, oh, please, just some lotion. That's all I want.
Yeah, I got really good at steaming foods and stuff like that. But and as a chef, I can make it interesting. And so my wife's always like, "Oh, I like the food you cooked on there." But there has to be a more excellent way, as we say. And what I kept seeing was I would hit my goal, and then I'd take my 6 weeks off, and I was up 20 pounds, and I'd have to go. Then I'd have to wait, until I could come back on again. And that's like 2-3 times a year. You're on these 40-day runs of HCG. So obviously you've come up with a better solution, that seems to work, has had amazing results. Talk to me about how that came to be and different things, in that world.
Well, it was a God thing. There you go.
Yeah.
Right. I've done it all. In fact, I like to be extremely authentic with people. I even did a gastric sleeve surgery almost 13 years ago. I was so embarrassed. I told no one. I wanted no one to know that I was to the point that I was willing to literally die to take the chance to have surgery and tell no one that I had it. And because I didn't want anyone to know, I totally sabotaged the tool. I never used it like I should have. Or I should say could have. And that was part of that time. About 10 years ago, I finally I was like, I've got to do something different. And that was that I have to stop chasing the scale. And so I started to diet, because I knew when I ate keto, for me, it was keto. When I ate keto, I seemed to have the best results. But sort of what you were saying, I knew that eating a pound of bacon wasn't good for me. Mm-hmm. And so I started to like fine tune it. So all of a sudden it was clean keto. I was still having dairy, but I wasn't having all of the super high fats, and I was eating vegetables. I was still keeping the fruit out. And I was doing great. In fact, I lost 80 pounds. Wow. Using keto. And I'm doing great. And I'm telling people about some nutritional products that I believed in. And about that time, stress hit, right? Life hit. And all of a sudden, what I was doing stopped working. Like I wasn't going, I was still in ketosis. Uh, how can you be eating absolutely on plan and not lose? And all of a sudden I started gaining and I panicked. All of a sudden, my stressor was that my nutritional company that I was a spokesperson for was sold, and they were sold to another company. And that company sent me their big box of products, and I was a little bit scorned. So I didn't really believe that what they were sending me was going to be that great. And I wasn't in any way, shape, or form thinking this was going to be the answers to my prayers. Let's put it that way. And I open up the box, and inside of there was this box of drops. And they look like this. I have this out here. They bottle 1, bottle 2. And I start poking holes in it. And I'm like, I'm sure these aren't that great. And I'm like looking at it and I'm like, okay, bottle 1, homeopathy. I love homeopathy. It's been around for thousands of years. It's an incredible science. I love how it doesn't contraindicate with medications for most people. In fact, over the last 6 years of me helping people use it, I really haven't seen any contraindications to medications just based on the premise of how homeopathy works. And what it did was it helped to support the thyroid. It helped keep blood sugar levels balanced. It helped with digestion, which, you know, I don't know if people realize, but the first step in any cell to produce a hormone is based off of your digestion. So if your digestion is messed up, your hormones are messed up. And if your hormones are messed up, your digestion is messed up. So it's kind of like which came first. But that first set of drops also helped with appetite and either one, giving it to me, because I was one of those who would forget to eat. I didn't forget to feed the dogs, but I forgot to feed me. You know, it's like, it wasn't a priority anymore. And then, but there's others who like, they want to eat the refrigerator. They're constantly hungry. That's just as much an imbalance. And so I like to call these drops body balance drops. There's some people who call them skinny drops, because gaining weight is an effect of our hormones being out of balance or our bodies being out of balance. And all weight gain is our body going, I need more fuel. So I'm just going to keep storing everything you're giving me in these fat cells because I'm going to need it. And I just got really great at storing fuel. And so I had lots of fat that needed to be burned. And so I take drop 1 before I eat all 3 of my meals. And I wait 10 minutes because they help to support all those things that I was talking about. And so my normal body function turns back on. And then right before I eat, I wait 10 minutes, I take the second set of drops. And what the second set of drops do is these are vitamins and adaptogenic herbs. So they bring energy back. They help my metabolism come back online. They support my stress or my cortisol production. There's so many people who are walking around stressed out to the max. And there's botanicals that we can consume that are in this bottle that take your stress and just bring it. I don't want my appetite high or low. I also don't want my blood sugar high or low, nor do I want my cortisol production high or low. And so the drops just bring everything back into balance. And then I pair this with a menu that pulls the hormone disruptors out. So things like sugar. Sugar is the number one hormone disruptor we can take in. So that explains why keto worked so well for me. But the minute that big stress came into my life, the cortisol production went through the roof. And that's why keto stopped working for me. But when I started to use these drops, all of a sudden I was supporting my adrenals that were overproducing the cortisol. And when I started to support them, the cortisol levels started to come down. I started losing again. And what ended up happening is over about 90 days, I saw my body for the first time come into balance hormonally, which is something I had never had. I've had autoimmune issues since I was really young age. And years of steroid use. That's why I was never keen on the world of pharmaceuticals. Because I had sort of felt like a little lab rat my whole life. It was like, well, try this, see if this works for her. They had my whole chemical being was just a mess. And so, like I said, I walked around thinking I was broken. And in 90 days, to see this lifetime of issues resolve themselves, not totally, not completely, but significantly. Like, I have a metabolism. So when I went to Europe and I ate and I didn't gain weight, that was a big win. When I went and I lost weight, that was a miracle to me. I was like, this isn't normal. So I started to see if it worked for other people. And sure enough. And so now, in the last couple years, we've, in that circle of health, in that community, we have over 40,000 people in there now who are using these drops, which are vitamins and like just really great botanicals, pairing them with protein, veggies, fruit. Now, I said we pulled the hormone disruptors out, so you're not going to find sugar there. It's a low glycemic menu. You're also not going to find dairy there. And there's modifications though. We don't have to strive here. We can really thrive. We can have nut milks. So I can have almond milk. I can have coconut milk. Right? There's so many other things that I can utilize, and I can pull the animal milks out because of the hormones that are in them. It's really hard to bring my hormones back in balance if I'm taking in another animal's hormones, let alone the fact that it breaks down to lactose, which then becomes sugar in my body, which is what really is disrupting everything. This world of preservative and packaged food, the chicken nugget world. The chicken nugget world is not helping us. And so this has become one of the most simple things I've ever done. Use these drops before I eat real food. I can find real food anywhere. Store, I can walk in and there's an apple there, there's pickle there, there's water there, there's actual real food in the convenience store. You got to look for it. You got to have some intention, have some nuts. But when I go to the grocery store, I'm doing exactly what we talked about, stopping the perimeter.
No, that's amazing. So, yeah, I mean, I'm the type of person where when I see something that I like, I like to, do my due diligence first, try it out myself, and then if I like it, I'll promote it. And so that's really what my wife and I have done, with the drops, because it's like, if I love something, you just got to shout it from the mountaintops, So yeah, we actually partnered up with you guys and are moving. You know, like my first 3 weeks, I think we had 30 people buy some drops through us,
It's
and
wonderful.
now we're starting to catch some, really get them to give us feedback and things like that. And then now one question there's two questions somebody asked me that you can address. Number one is it just for people who have to lose weight? Number one. And then number two is that what about people who've lost weight that have like loose skin? Because I'm sure you went through that where you're like, man, I just can't get rid of the skin. You know,
Right.
what's besides going into surgery, what are some things that are natural that we can do for those things? So those are two questions that come up.
Yeah. So the first question, um, there's plenty of thin people who have hormonal imbalances. And weight gain is just one of the symptoms of our body being out of balance and our hormones being disrupted. The others would be fatigue, not sleeping well, blood sugar issues, pre-diabetic, diabetic, inflammation, allergy, histamine issues, migraines. Like, think about all of the things that feel like dis-ease,
Mm.
disease, dis-ease in the body. Um, those things all begin with our bodies getting out of balance. And so the drops, they can help a mirage of different things just because we want to bring the body back into balance so that it knows how to, you know, tackle all of these different things. So yeah, plenty of thin people use the drops and they don't lose weight because the drops don't make you lose weight. The drops bring your body back in balance so that if one of the imbalances is your body storing fat, guess what it's going to stop doing? It's going
Yeah.
to stop storing. Here's the other thing, it's going to go, wait, your metabolism is going to be restored. And when your metabolism is restored, you start to burn fat for fuel. So all of a sudden, we have our body starts to actually burn this excess that we have. Now, if you're lean and you don't have excess, there's nothing to store. In fact, I have people who are thin and maybe they're too thin,
Mm.
and all of a sudden they start to put on some weight. It's what does your body need if your body is balanced?
That's great.
Now, the second question you asked is, what do we do with all this loose skin? Um, but the drops, we're not typically losing, like, because it doesn't make you lose weight, you're not going to lose faster than your body wants to lose weight. So I've lost 160 pounds. I've done nothing to my face. I don't have all this loose hanging skin. Now, there are parts of my body that I am not happy with. I'm not going to say it's perfect, but I do know that there are nutritional ways that you can help yourself. So um, I love it. We have a nutritional product that is with the drops called Vanali. It's a grape seed extract, really high quality grape seed extract, alongside vitamin C. And those two together help the skin to tighten and to increase collagen production. And not only produce collagen production, but your body starts to utilize collagen correctly. So in all of the, whether you're consuming collagen, I've got so many people who are using collagen products, but they're not taking in the nutrients to actually break it and use it inside of your body.
Mm.
So make sure you're getting a really great grapeseed extract, and vitamin C if you want to tighten up that skin.
Wow.
And then that goes back to being basically a house plant. We need nutritional supplementation. Like, the drops are not magic. The
Right.
drops help us to get some basic vitamins, um, herbs, the homeopathy to support the endocrine system. But we all need a great multi mineral a great multivitamin. We need to be supplementing. Our food simply doesn't have the nutrients in it that we need. And so you've got to find a company um, that you know that they're transparent with their ingredients and that they're having really high quality, that they're testing their nutritional supplementation and making sure that what they say is in the bottle is actually in the bottle. So you want them tested, you want them proven, you want them guaranteed. That's why I partnered with Partner Co. Um, over the last year and a half. And thankfully, they purchased this Slenderize balance body balance drops so that I still have access to them, along with other, over 100 different nutritional products that every single product is gone through by a scientific advisory board. And they're testing and they're proving and they're guaranteeing that what they say is in there is actually in there.
Yeah, I think that's really key. I've heard horror stories about where they'll go to the big block nutrition stores, and they test some of the vitamins, and they find like rat droppings and different stuff in the mix because they don't know how they're stored. They don't know. There's really no chain of evidence, chain of custody,
Right.
like we learned in the
There's
last
no
election.
one. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's no one that polices, if you want to
right,
use that word, no one policing the world of supplementation,
right.
because they don't fall in the drug world, they fall in the food world. They're classified as food. So it's the FDA. Well, the FDA says Twinkies are okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's a problem.
right.
There is a problem with the system for sure.
That's right. So, another thing that I just want to touch with this is that, obviously my ministry is marketplace evangelism, kingdom business. It's really tying your business to the kingdom. You seem to be like a Proverbs 31 type of woman who's out there actually doing work, but there's a higher purpose to the things that you do. So that's just something I want to, give you applause for, because I've listened to some of your broadcasts and messages, and it's like you don't forget about where you come from. I think a lot of times there's a line that people say, okay, well, there's business world, and there's my faith, but it doesn't seem like you're afraid to cross that line, which is just a
No.
nice breath of fresh air.
Thank you. Well, years ago, John Maxwell said something that stuck with me, and he said, "There's no such thing as business ethics.
Mm,
There's just ethics." And
that's
I
good.
kind of took that to heart, and it was like, there's like, who I am is who I am, and I can't be a different version of myself in business and a different version of Kristal outside of business. Like, there's just Kristal. Whether there's a doctor in front of my name or whether there's not. And I believe that I believe there's a high calling and that I have a high assignment on my life. And I believe that if God can move money through me, he will move money to me. And I want his money to move through the world. I know there's so much of it. And I know that it's just a tool. There's been times in my life where I made money an idol because I didn't have enough of it. I was back in that world of striving. Please, God, give me money to pay my bills. And and I was just like, please, oh please, oh please. And all of a sudden it was like, stop thriving. Stop striving, Kristal. Let's
Yeah.
thrive with money. And so it was like this moment in this clarity of, if you create value to help other people, you will thrive.
Mm,
What you put out will come back to you. And so I stopped worrying about what I was getting and I started worrying about what I was giving.
mm,
And so in the world of business, what is the value that I give? I'm not ever like, I just want to give more. And I think in that it aligns in the world of kingdom financing. I want to give more. So because he knows my heart on giving, he's going to continue to drive the money through me. I want to give. And I don't just want to give knowledge, and I don't want to just give inspiration. I also want to give funds. I want to find a need, and I want to be a part of filling that need. So that's me in
Yeah.
regards to business. And I, I'm I'm going to shout it from the mountaintop, like you said. We need more people in business to be kingdom financiers. We
Hmm.
need more wealth in the kingdom, because who better to put it in the hands of?
Yeah, and you're really laying up treasure in heaven. That's so important. That's a lot of the things we teach. Because a lot of people don't understand that you can be redeemed. I always say you can get saved and roll on the floor and have a great experience, but then your money's still in the world system because you haven't learned seed time and harvest, and really just taking your, give unto Caesar what's Caesar's, but give unto the Lord what's the Lord's, because there's a difference in your money. There's the world's way, and then there's God's way. And when you are a giver, then it literally will take you to whole other levels, because now you've got a heavenly bank account that you can put a huge demand on. And so that's amazing. That's a lot of what our ministry does. We really just teach people. It's sometimes it's the hard thing. Obviously my ministry is more. I mean, I do kingdom. I call it marketplace evangelism, because I think that business people can do more than fund. I think that they need to be the front end of the sword, out there winning souls in their business and in their sphere of influence, taking the funds that they make, using that to propel the gospel, and then tying people back to a really good local church that can disciple and build them up. Which, we're all a part of that. And business is huge. Businesses, we can't do it without it. A lot of times we've give it to the world, where we go to work, Monday through Friday for the world, to create income. We're making someone else a billionaire, and that money's going to the things of the world, where you can take, and even if it's starting something small, so you could take something very small. And what I love about what you guys are doing, and even with Partner Co. or any business, I've been involved in network marketing, direct sales since I was 20 years old, is the fact that, it takes somebody who has literally no skill set, and it makes you a master of what you do. It can take you to whole other levels, because I've seen people in 1 year make more money they ever made in their entire life in direct sales world. If the plan's right and the system's right. But what we always say, there should be no false weights and balances. So you've got to sell a good product that proves that, that it's been proven to work. And then, the price is good, and then the compensation of the person selling it's good. And it seems like you guys have got a home run, and I'm excited to see where the future goes with that. One thing I like to finish with is, because I always respect, your time. I know you're
Yeah.
busy, but is advice to people. When I first got started in business, I mean, I started in my 20s. And then in ministry, I always ask people, what would you do over, what are things you would tell somebody who's at that starting gate of life, or in the business world or ministry world, or both, where it's like, man, what are some key things that you would tell somebody who's just getting started? Like hit us with your best Mr. Miyagi advice.
For someone who's just getting started, is be teachable, be coachable. Um, because I see so many people come in, and they're guarded. They're coming in with skepticism, and so they're like, I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it slowly. And what I find is, we've probably all heard this: success loves speed.
Mm.
And the reason is you create your own momentum. And so if you'll get with someone and be teachable and coachable, who's had success, go to the person. See, those who are teaching and coaching are looking for that person. that's teachable and coachable. We call them gold. I'm looking for gold. My mentor said, I went to him and I'm like, so how do I know who's gold? And he goes, it looks different. If you were digging through dirt and you found a piece of gold, what's the difference between dirt and gold? And it's like, oh, well, it looks different. He's like, exactly. Someone who's teachable and coachable looks different than someone who's just seeing if this could work for them.
Hmm.
And so be that person, be that gold that's like, what do I have to lose? Like, get in there and learn from the people who are having success. Ask for their time, because people who are successful, their whole goal in life is to duplicate their efforts. And no matter the industry, we naturally want to pass on what we've learned to someone else. And so don't be afraid to ask the people who are successful for help.
That's really good. So a question for you is, who are some people that have been mentors to you? I mean, like when you think about your life and, your career.
Yeah. One of my closest mentors and friends is a man. His name is Brent Palmer. He's a coach, but he's got one of these memories that I don't know that he's ever forgot a single thing he's read or learned. And he's a coach, so he's very strategic with how he learns it. And he's a head coach. And so in the world of coaching, you have your offensive coaches, right? Who are they're learning how to win the game. They got to get the points on the scoreboard. And then you have your defensive coaches. And your defensive coach is like keeping somebody else from scoring. Two very different mindsets. What this coach is really good at is bringing them both together and winning with it. So his brain is extremely strategic. So I learned my world of strategy from him. I appreciate him so much. Another mentor was Gary Racer, a man that was a part of the direct sales business world for, 30 plus years. And he has just sewn into me how to win and how to help the newest person. And that's probably the number one thing that he taught me, was to always help the newest person have success. And if you're helping the newest person, you're always then helping those that have been there along the way. Build upon the next person's shoulders. John Maxwell has been a major mentor of mine. I've followed him for years, got to be in his teachings through the years, and he's just a wealth of knowledge. And just his voice, it's one of those voices that once you hear John talk, you can hear him in your head when you're reading the book. It's like he's literally talking to you. Yeah. And so I love John. So those are some of my mentors, but man, that's just, in the world of business. But, there's health mentors, and there's educational mentors, and there's faith mentors. And I'm just blessed I want to learn from every single person that I'm around. So I'm always looking for that nugget of gold, that golden nugget from every person that I meet, because everybody has something I can learn from them.
Yeah, I always used to say, that if you want to go places, figure out who's already there and get next to them and learn everything that they know. I did that in the culinary world. I got the opportunity to work with some of the best chefs in the world and, hone my skills in that department, just by association. Sometimes when you're associated with the people, it's not what's taught, it's what's caught, because you're just around them in their circle of, when you get into that circle, it's like you get drawn along like a draft,
Yep.
And also, nice thing about mentorship is they don't have to be alive to mentor you through books and things like that. Leaders
Right?
are readers, and I'm sure there's great books that you've read throughout the years that have helped to mentor you. But wow, this has been great. I appreciate you taking the time to come on so we can learn a little bit about yourself and your story and some of your amazing products that you have. It's always a privilege for me to interview people on the 7K Revelation podcast and really get to know your story. You're out there getting it done. You're building a fantastic business and this circle of health, just what does it say, 40,000 people you're impacting through that. What's a great way for people to get connected to that?
The Facebook group, Circle of Health.
Okay.
And you can, I'm sure we'll have you put the link to it here where people can join it. They can reach out to you and get the information as well. And if they're interested in the body balancing drops, reach out to Marc and get them, because I'm telling you, one person at a time, we are going to get the body of Christ back stronger than ever, healthier than ever, because man, if we're going to be evangelists and we're going to go out there, we need to be healthy doing it.
That's amen to that. I had a guy literally just the other day, he called me and he said, he said he saw some of the posts I've been making, and he's like, Marc, he goes, I just have to tell you that I was in my yard working and the Lord told me to be a part of whatever you're doing. And he said, I really feel something big is coming. And he said that he was on a cruise and noticed how many people were extremely overweight. And he says that it's an attack. He felt that it's an attack on our culture, on the American people, and eventually on the world, to make us slow, to make us, vulnerable, and so to have an opportunity where you can literally change people's lives one drop at a time, and also financially, to have that as a tool for people and to set people free. It's just huge and it's exciting, and so I'm looking forward to the future and, just being a part of what you do. So once again, I appreciate you coming on, giving us your time, and I'm sure we'll be hearing from you again.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for asking me to be on, and I look forward to doing this alongside of you.
Awesome. Wow, there you have it. That's Dr. Kristal Vance. What an amazing interview. Man, there's so many things I didn't know about her, but I love her company. I love what she's doing through Partner Co. I've lost weight with the products. I love it, and I started to actually just buy it in bulk to save people money. And so, hey, we're a young podcast, and, we need things to advertise on our podcast. So you can always just DM me. You can find us. You can go to the Alfanos, TheAlfanos.com, or alfanoministries.com, and just send me a message. Say, hey, look, I'm interested in these drops. I want to lose some weight. I want to get my body into balance. We could definitely help you out, because everything we sell helps to support our ministry and take the gospel around the world. That's the other thing too, is partnership. You can go on our sites and you can click on the giving tab. And if you'd like, you can be a partner of the ministry, which actually helps these broadcasts. If you're listening on iHeartRadio or Spotify or just watching on YouTube, it actually helps this podcast go around. And not only that, when you partner with Alfano Ministries, we are actively traveling throughout the United States right now. We just got back from Europe, and we just finished a little tour of South Florida. We're going to be back in the Miami area later this month in September. We're going to be going up to Tennessee in October. And then maybe even back international before the end of the year. We're not 100% sure, but there's opportunities. But all that takes funding. And so, we are basically self-funded. We have a few partners, but we'd love for you to partner with Alfano Ministries, because there's power in partnership. You sow where you go. And so by you sowing into this ministry, Alfano Ministries or Alfano Ministries International, it helps you to take your seed and send it all around the world through either podcasting or live meetings. And listen, if you're a pastor of a church or a business leader and you want us to come in and to teach marketplace evangelism, kingdom business, to train up people. Look, we have got many opportunities for you to make extra income as well. We can teach your people how to be effective soul winners, number one, but number two is how to tie their finances to the end time harvest of souls. That's what we do through Alfano Ministries and our kingdom business and marketplace evangelism, as well as soul winning training, teaching people how to be so effective as soul winners, to go out and get on the streets. We teach that, evangelism, power evangelism. Book us, give us a call. We would love to come to your town and share the gospel and also teach your people. So once again, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate each and every one of you who are tuning in regularly. And I really appreciate the guys who are the men and women who have actually partnered with our ministry to help keep this thing going. But until we see you again, just remember, you are one of the 7,000 who haven't bowed the knee. And we'll see you next week for another episode.
This broadcast has been brought to you by friends and partners of Alfano Ministries International. Thank you for partnering with us today.